Netflix is no longer trying to win only your movie night, it is trying to win your spare minutes all day. That is the bigger story hiding behind what might otherwise look like a simple mobile redesign. For years, people thought of Netflix as the place you open when you already know what kind of long session you want. Maybe it is a movie. Maybe it is the next episode in a series. Maybe it is background comfort viewing. But the basic habit was still pretty clear. You opened Netflix when you were ready to watch Netflix. That model built one of the biggest entertainment businesses in the world. But it also came from a different era of media behavior. Now the internet runs on fragmented attention. People bounce between short video, group chats, podcasts, games, live streams, highlight clips, and recommendation feeds. A platform that only wins one kind of moment risks losing all the others. And once those other moments belong to someone else, so does a big share of the user's habit, data, add value, and mindshare. That is why Netflix's 2026 product moves matter. On April 30, 2026, Netflix announced a redesigned mobile experience built around helping people find something faster and interact with the service more naturally on a phone. The company introduced Clips, a vertical video feed designed for those in-between moments when someone does not want to commit to a full watch session, but still wants something quick, visual, and easy to react to. Netflix later updated that rollout on July 14, 2026, expanding the new experience into more markets. If that were the only thing happening, you could call it a tactical response to TikTok-style behavior and move on. But it is not the only thing happening. Netflix's broader 2026 product and business messaging makes the strategy look much larger. At its upfront presentation in May 2026, Netflix emphasized that its ad-supported plan had reached more than 250 million monthly active viewers globally. It also highlighted that video podcasts had already arrived and that vertical video would become another place where new ad inventory could appear. In the APAC product showcase, Netflix also leaned into collections, games, and cleaner mobile navigation. Put together, those moves point to a very different ambition. Netflix is trying to become less like a single-format streaming service and more like a universal entertainment app. What does that actually mean? It means one app wants to cover as many entertainment moods and time windows as possible. Long sessions at night, short bursts during a commute, casual browsing when you are bored, background listening, socially shareable clips, quick interactions that turn into deeper viewing, maybe even play sessions. The product goal is not only to host content, the goal is to own the decision loop around what you do with your free time. That is a much more strategic position. If Netflix can be the place where you discover, sample, watch, replay, clip, maybe play, and eventually buy into a subscription or ad-supported habit, then it gains something much more durable than one successful show. It gains routine, and routine is the most valuable thing in consumer internet. This is also why Netflix is not alone. TechCrunch described the current shift well in late July 2026 by arguing that the biggest entertainment apps are starting to converge. Spotify is no longer only a music app. It now spans podcasts, video podcasts, audiobooks, memberships, and richer creator tools. YouTube is no longer only a long video site. It now blends shorts, podcasts, live content, shopping, sports, music, rentals, and creator businesses. TikTok is no longer only short-form video. It increasingly overlaps with shopping, event discovery, travel planning, and longer content. The old boundaries are getting blurry on purpose. For a long time, media platforms competed by dominating one format. Netflix meant premium on-demand video. Spotify meant music and then podcasts. YouTube meant user-generated video. TikTok meant short-form mobile entertainment. But once every platform gets good enough at distribution and recommendation, format by itself stops being a moat. Then the real battle shifts. The battle becomes, who can occupy the most user time across the most contexts with the least friction? That question is especially important on mobile. The phone changed entertainment from an event into an always available reflex. People do not always sit down and think, I will now consume a 40-minute piece of content. Sometimes they are waiting in line. Sometimes they are killing 6 minutes before leaving the house. Sometimes they are half browsing while distracted. Those moments used to belong mostly to social apps and short video feeds. Netflix clearly wants a piece of that terrain now. That is what Clips really signals. It is not only a discovery feature. It is an attempt to give Netflix a lighter weight entry point into moments where the old product felt too heavy. You do not need to commit to a full episode to stay inside the Netflix ecosystem. You can scroll, sample, save, and decide later. That keeps the brand present more often, which increases the chances of a deeper session later. There is also a very direct business reason for all of this. More moments mean more monetization paths. Subscriptions still matter, obviously, but the more types of engagement a platform can support, the more valuable its ad-supported tiers can become. A service that only monetizes long viewing sessions has fewer surfaces than a service that can sell attention around clips, discovery, creator-adjacent content, and multiple kinds of interactive behavior. That is why Netflix's upfront message matters so much. When the company says it has more ways to entertain and therefore more places to advertise, that is not marketing filler. That is the whole strategy in one sentence. Format expansion is really inventory expansion, but inventory is only part of the story. The deeper advantage is recommendation power. Once an app holds more formats, it has more chances to learn what actually pulls you in. Not just which drama you finished, but whether you linger on a clip, which categories you sample, whether you jump from comedy to sport to documentary, whether you prefer passive watching or interactive discovery, and whether a short preview can convert you into a longer session. In that world, AI and recommendation systems become less about suggesting one next title and more about orchestrating your overall entertainment behavior. That is where the phrase entertainment operating system starts to make sense. An operating system is not valuable only because it contains apps. It is valuable because it becomes the default layer through which behavior gets organized. The more Netflix can move in that direction, the less it competes only as a catalog and the more it competes as a habit engine. There is also a creator economy angle here. Creators increasingly work across formats. Someone might host a podcast, cut short clips, build a long-form audience, spin up a live event, and sell memberships or bonus content around the edges. Platforms have noticed that the creator and the audience no longer think in neat media silos. If audiences move fluidly, platforms want to be fluid too. Spotify's 2026 investor messaging leaned into this by describing a broader media ambition, not just a music subscription business. YouTube's recent impact report also reinforces the idea that platforms become more defensible when they support full ecosystems, not isolated uploads. Netflix historically played a different game because it focused on premium licensed and original content, not creator-native ecosystems, but its recent moves suggest it now wants some of the same structural benefits: more entry points, more touchpoints, more ways to hold the user relationship directly. Still, the strategy is not guaranteed to work. The biggest risk is becoming broad without becoming essential. Users do not automatically reward convergence just because a company adds features. If the clips feel weak, people go back to TikTok. If the podcasts feel secondary, they stay on YouTube or Spotify. If the app becomes cluttered, discovery may get worse instead of better. And if every platform copies every other platform, then the new differentiator becomes execution quality, recommendation intelligence, and brand trust. In other words, Netflix cannot just add formats. It has to make the app feel like a better answer to fragmented attention than the alternatives already are. That is a much harder challenge than simply licensing a few hit shows. But it is also why this strategy is worth watching right now. The old streaming war was mostly about who had the best library, the biggest exclusives, and the strongest reason to keep paying every month. The next streaming war looks more like a fight over default attention. Who gets opened first when someone has 5 free minutes? Who turns a clip into a session? Who owns the recommendation layer across formats? Who gives advertisers more high-quality places to show up without making the product feel cheap? Who becomes flexible enough to fit movies, sports, podcasts, clips, and interactive media inside one coherent experience? That is a much bigger contest than binge watching. So if Netflix looks more restless in 2026, that is probably because the company sees what the market is becoming. Entertainment is no longer neatly divided by medium. It is becoming one giant competition for time, intent, and habit. And in that environment, the winners may not be the platforms with the single best content category. They may be the ones that become the easiest place to decide what to do next. That is why Netflix's latest mobile changes matter more than they first appear to. This is not only a product refresh. It is a bid to become the app that catches you before you decide whether you want to watch, listen, scroll, or play. And if Netflix succeeds at that, it will not just be a streaming service anymore. It will be something much closer to a universal entertainment app.